The Zephyrian Science Council had been monitoring the galaxy for over 3,000 cycles, and their conclusion was always the same. They were alone among the stars. Advanced civilizations simply didn't exist beyond their carefully maintained borders. The universe was vast, cold, and disappointingly empty of intelligent life. Commander Veltar adjusted her chromatic display panels, watching the endless stream of data from their deep space monitoring stations. As the head of xenobiology research for the Galactic Survey Division, she had spent her entire career searching for signs of other sapient species. The results were always negative, always predictable. "Another sector sweep complete," announced her assistant, Crixal, his tentacles dancing across the holographic interface. No technological signatures detected. No structured electromagnetic emissions. No evidence of spacefaring capability anywhere in the outer spiral arms. Veltar's compound eyes dimmed with familiar disappointment. The Zephyrian Empire had expanded across 12 star systems over the past millennium, establishing research outposts and mining operations on hundreds of worlds. They had encountered countless species of flora and fauna, some even showing rudimentary problem-solving abilities, but nothing that could be classified as truly intelligent life. Their own evolutionary path had been remarkably smooth. Zephyria Prime was a garden world with moderate gravity, stable climate, and abundant resources. Their ancestors had evolved from peaceful herbivores, developing intelligence through cooperation and careful resource management. War was a concept they understood only in theoretical terms, having eliminated internal conflict centuries before achieving spaceflight. The galaxy, as far as they knew, followed the same peaceful patterns. Life was rare, intelligence even rarer, and technological civilization was apparently so uncommon that they might be the only example in their entire galactic neighborhood. "Commander," Crixal interrupted her thoughts. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Survey Station 7. They're reporting unusual readings." Veltar's interest sharpened. Survey Station 7 was positioned in the far reaches of what their star charts labeled as Sector 847, an unremarkable region containing a small yellow star with several rocky planets. The system had been flagged for basic resource evaluation, but showed no signs of anything particularly interesting. "Display the transmission," she ordered. The holographic projector shimmered to life, revealing the concerned features of Survey Chief Noxera. Her usually composed demeanor was noticeably shaken. "Commander Veltar, we have a situation that requires immediate analysis. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected structured electromagnetic emissions from the third planet in the Sol system. The signals show complex mathematical patterns and what appears to be encoded information." Veltar felt her breathing slow. Structured emissions meant technology. Encoded information meant intelligence. After 3 millennia of searching, had they finally found another civilization? "The emissions are unlike anything in our databases," Noxera continued. "They're primitive by our standards, suggesting early-stage radio technology, but the volume and complexity are extraordinary. This species appears to be broadcasting continuously across multiple frequency ranges." The display shifted to show spectral analysis data. The patterns were indeed artificial, showing the telltale signs of intelligent origin. More importantly, they were recent. The signals had propagation characteristics, suggesting they had been transmitted within the past 100 cycles. "There's more." Noxera's voice carried a note of confusion. "The signals originate from across the entire planet. This isn't a single civilization, Commander. Our analysis suggests multiple distinct technological societies operating simultaneously on the same world." Veltar's excitement dimmed slightly. Multiple civilizations on one planet usually indicated a fractured species, likely engaged in territorial disputes. Their own history taught them that such situations rarely led to stable technological development. Most species either unified peacefully like the Zephyrians had, or destroyed themselves before achieving true spaceflight capability. "What's their technological assessment?" she asked. "Primitive, but rapidly advancing. We estimate they've developed radio communications within the last few decades. However, the rate of advancement is unprecedented. Our xenosociological models can't account for such rapid progress. This was puzzling. Zephyrian development had been steady and methodical, taking centuries to advance from basic electronics to their current level of technology. A species that advanced quickly was either unusually gifted or unusually desperate. Neither option fit comfortably with their understanding of how civilizations should develop. Prepare a detailed observation mission, Veltar decided. I want comprehensive scans of this system. Biological analysis, technological assessment, social structure evaluation. If we've finally found another intelligent species, we need to understand everything about them before making contact. Understood, Commander. However, there's one more thing. Noxara zitata. The planet itself is unusual. Initial scans show it's what our classification system would label as a Class 9 hostile environment. Veltar's compound eyes widened. Class 9 worlds were death traps, barely capable of supporting life at all. Extreme weather patterns, dangerous atmospheric conditions, unstable tectonics, and hostile native organisms made such planets unsuitable for colonization. The idea that an intelligent species could not only survive but thrive on such a world challenged everything they understood about evolutionary development. "Are you certain of his classification?" she asked. "Confirmed. The planet experiences massive electromagnetic storms, has dangerous levels of solar radiation, extreme temperature variations, and appears to be geologically unstable. Our colonization protocols would classify it as uninhabitable even with full environmental suits." Veltar found herself staring at the data streams with growing bewilderment. An intelligent species developing on a hostile world was theoretically possible, but practically unheard of. Such environments typically prevented the stable social development necessary for technological advancement. "Begin immediate preparation for an extended observation mission," she ordered. "I want our best xenobiological team assigned to this project. And, Crixal, access the restricted archives. I want everything we have on theoretical development patterns for hostile world civilizations." As the connection closed, Veltar settled back into her research alcove, her mind racing with possibilities. After millennia of believing they were alone, the discovery of another intelligent species should have been cause for celebration. Instead, she found herself filled with an unexpected sense of unease. Everything about this discovery challenged their fundamental assumptions about how life should develop. A species advancing rapidly on a hostile world suggested evolutionary pressures that the peaceful Zephyrians had never experienced. What kind of creatures would such an environment produce? The data streams continued flowing across her displays, each new piece of information adding to the mystery. The electromagnetic signatures were becoming stronger, suggesting the aliens were rapidly expanding their technological capabilities. Some of the newer signals showed characteristics that their computer models couldn't fully interpret. "Commander," Crixal's voice interrupted her thoughts. "The archive files you requested. According to theoretical models, species that develop on hostile worlds typically exhibit enhanced adaptation capabilities, aggressive resource acquisition behaviors, and..." He paused, clearly uncomfortable with the next part. "Elevated territorial instincts." Veltar absorbed this information with growing concern. The Zephyrian Empire had built their civilization on cooperation and peaceful expansion. They had never encountered a species that might not share these values. Their first contact protocols assumed they would be dealing with beings who, like themselves, had evolved past primitive competitive behaviors. What if these assumptions were wrong? The next few days passed in a blur of preparation and analysis. The observation mission was approved at the highest levels of the Zephyrian government. For the first time in their recorded history, they were preparing to study another technological civilization. The mission ship Serene Observer was equipped with their most advanced sensor arrays and staffed with their best researchers. Veltar found herself appointed as mission commander, responsible for humanity's first glimpse of another intelligent species. As the ship departed Zephyrian space, heading toward the distant Sol system, Veltar reviewed the accumulated data one more time. The electromagnetic signatures were growing stronger and more complex with each passing day. Whatever these aliens were doing, they were doing it at an accelerating pace. The journey would take several months, even at maximum speed. By the time they arrived, how much more advanced would these creatures have become? And, more importantly, what would they discover about a species that had learned to not just survive, but thrive in conditions that would kill most other known forms of life? The galaxy had suddenly become a much more interesting and potentially dangerous place. The serene observer dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, its advanced sensors immediately beginning their comprehensive scan of this strange new world. Commander Veltar stood in the observation deck, watching as data streams populated her displays with information that defied everything she thought she knew about planetary development. Readings confirmed, Commander, reported Chief Scientist Mordek, his four arms working rapidly across multiple control interfaces. This is definitely a Class 9 hostile environment, but the life readings are extraordinary. The planet designated as Earth appeared on their main display, a swirling blue and white sphere that somehow managed to look both beautiful and terrifying. The atmospheric readings showed violent storm systems, electromagnetic disturbances that would cripple Zephyrian technology, and radiation levels that exceeded safety margins by dangerous amounts. How many distinct life forms are you detecting? Veltar asked. Millions, Mordek replied, his voice filled with amazement. The biodiversity is unlike anything in our databases. But, Commander, that's not the strangest part. The intelligent species we've been monitoring doesn't just share the planet with other life forms. They appear to be actively manipulating them. The display shifted to show detailed scans of the planet's surface. What they saw challenged every assumption about how civilizations should develop. Instead of the carefully planned, environmentally harmonious cities that characterized Zephyrian settlements, Earth's surface was covered with massive, sprawling urban complexes that seemed to grow organically from a landscape. They've altered the planetary surface on a massive scale, Mordek continued. Artificial waterways, massive structural complexes, and what appears to be controlled agricultural zones covering entire continents. This level of environmental manipulation typically takes millennia to achieve. Veltar studied the images with growing amazement and concern. The humans, as their translation protocols had identified them, hadn't just adapted to their hostile environment. They had bent it to their will through sheer force of engineering and determination. What about their technological signatures? She asked. Accelerating beyond our projections, replied communications specialist Yixera. When we first detected them, they had basic radio technology. In the time it took us to reach their system, they've developed what appears to be primitive spacefaring capability. The main display showed several artificial objects in orbit around Earth. The designs were crude by Zephyrian standards, but functional. More concerning was the rate at which new objects were appearing. Their scans detected construction activities that suggested the humans were rapidly expanding their off-world capabilities. Commander, Yixera continued, we're intercepting massive amounts of their communications traffic. Our translation algorithms are working to decode their languages, but we've identified at least 200 distinct linguistic patterns. 200 languages? Veltar was stunned. Zephyrian civilization had unified under a single language thousands of cycles ago. Multiple languages indicated a fractured society, yet somehow these humans were achieving technological advances at an unprecedented rate despite their apparent lack of unity. The communications patterns are complex, Yixera admitted. They appear to be constantly exchanging information across their entire planet. Scientific data, cultural exchanges, commercial transactions. Despite having multiple languages and what our analysis suggests are competing political entities, they maintain continuous global communications. Veltar, try to process this information. Everything about human civilization contradicted their models of how intelligent species should develop. Competition instead of cooperation, rapid advancement despite environmental hostility, and technological progress despite social fragmentation. What about their military capabilities? She asked, dreading the answer. Mordek's expression grew troubled. Extensive. Our scans detect what appear to be defensive installations across their entire planet. Some of the energy signatures suggest weapons capable of planetary surface destruction. This was the confirmation Veltar had been fearing. A species that had developed in a hostile environment, advancing rapidly with significant military capabilities. Everything about humanity suggested they were exactly the kind of species that Zephyrian contact protocols were designed to avoid. However, Mordek continued. There's something unusual about their weapon deployment patterns. Despite having the capability for large-scale destruction, they don't appear to be actively using these weapons against each other. What do you mean? Veltar asked. Our analysis suggests they have multiple competing political entities, which should theoretically lead to constant warfare. Instead, we detect very limited military activities. They appear to have developed some form of mutual deterrence system. This was even more puzzling. Species that developed weapons typically use them. The concept of creating destructive capability as a means of preventing destruction was counterintuitive to Zephyrian thinking. Commander, Yixera interrupted, we're receiving structured transmissions that appear to be directed towards space. They're not random broadcasts. These signals show intentional patterns designed for long-distance communication. The implications hit Veltar immediately. They're trying to contact other species. It appears so. The transmissions include mathematical constants, basic physical principles, and what our analysis suggests are cultural exchanges. They're actively seeking contact with alien civilizations. Veltar felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. Not only were the humans developing rapidly and maintaining significant military capabilities, but they were actively trying to expand their contact beyond their own world. This was exactly the scenario that Zephyrian strategic planning had always warned against. Pull us back to maximum observation distance, she ordered. Implement full stealth protocols. Under no circumstances are we to be detected. As the serene observer retreated to a safer distance, Veltar reviewed their accumulated data. The humans were unlike any species in Zephyrian databases. They had developed intelligence under conditions that should have made civilization impossible. They had achieved technological advancement at a rate that challenged theoretical maximums. They maintained complex social structures despite apparent fragmentation, and they were actively seeking contact with other species. Commander, Mordek approached her station. There's something else you need to see. The display shifted to show detailed biological scans of individual humans. What Veltar saw made her compound eyes widen in shock. They're physically adapted for their environment in ways we didn't expect, Mordek explained. Enhanced muscle density, reinforced skeletal structure, improved cardiovascular systems. These aren't evolutionary adaptations developed over millions of cycles. These are engineering optimizations that appeared relatively recently in their development. What are you suggesting? They've been modifying themselves, Commander. Their biological structure shows signs of intentional enhancement. They're not just adapting to their environment through technology. They're adapting their own bodies. Veltar stared at the data in growing horror. The implications were staggering. A species that could modify their own biology was operating on a level of technological sophistication that rivaled Zephyrian capabilities, despite appearing to be in the early stages of space development. How is this possible? She asked. Unknown. Our models can't account for this level of biological manipulation at their apparent technological level. Either our assessment of their capabilities is completely wrong, or they've developed along entirely different technological pathways than our civilization. The observation mission continued for several more days, each new piece of data adding to the growing picture of humanity as something unprecedented in Zephyrian experience. They were a species that thrived on competition rather than cooperation. They had turned environmental hostility into an advantage. They had developed technologies through pathways that Zephyrian science barely understood. And they were expanding their capabilities at a rate that suggested they would be a major galactic presence within a remarkably short time. Commander, Yixera's voice carried a note of urgency. We've detected new orbital activities around their planet. They're launching something massive. The display showed a human spacecraft unlike anything they had seen before. Where their previous constructions had been functional but crude, this vessel showed sophisticated design principles and engineering capabilities that approached Zephyrian standards. How long since their first radio transmissions? Veltar asked quietly. Less than 200 cycles, Mordek replied. In 2 centuries, humanity had progressed from basic radio technology to spacecraft that could potentially rival Zephyrian vessels. This rate of development was not just unprecedented. It was theoretically impossible according to every model of technological advancement. Set course for Zephyrian space, Veltar ordered. Maximum speed. The Council needs to know about this immediately. As the Serene Observer prepared for its journey home, Veltar took one last look at Earth through their long-range sensors. The blue and white planet continued its rotation, unaware that it had just changed the entire strategic balance of their region of the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just another intelligent species. They were something entirely new and potentially very dangerous. The peaceful galaxy that the Zephyrians had known for millennia was about to become a much more complicated place. The emergency session of the Zephyrian High Council convened within hours of the Serene Observer's return to their home system. Commander Veltar stood before the assembled representatives of 12 worlds, her detailed report having shattered their fundamental understanding of galactic civilization. High Counselor Zinthara, her ancient form draped in the ceremonial robes of office, spoke with the weight of 3,000 cycles of accumulated wisdom. Commander Veltar, your report describes a species that contradicts every principle of evolutionary development we have established. Are you certain of these findings? Absolutely certain, High Counselor. The data has been verified through multiple independent analysis protocols. Humanity represents a completely new paradigm of intelligence development. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as the assembled representatives processed the implications. For millennia, Zephyrian civilization had operated under the assumption that any intelligent species they encountered would follow similar developmental patterns to their own. Peaceful evolution, cooperative social structures, and careful environmental stewardship. Tell us about their military capabilities, requested Counselor Kevron, the representative from their outer colonies. His region would be the first to encounter expanding human influence, making his concerns particularly relevant. Veltar activated her holographic display, showing detailed scans of human military installations. They possess weapons capable of planetary surface destruction. Our analysis suggests they have sufficient destructive capability to render their own world uninhabitable multiple times over. Shocked silence filled the chamber. The concept of developing such overwhelming destructive capability was alien to Zephyrian thinking. Their own military technology was designed for planetary defense against natural disasters and potential asteroid impacts, not for warfare against other intelligent beings. Yet they haven't destroyed themselves, observed Counselor Morseth, the chief xenobiological advisor. How do we explain this restraint? Our best analysis suggests they've developed what they call mutually assured destruction, Veltar explained. The knowledge that using their weapons would guarantee their own destruction appears to have created a state of enforced peace. Peace through the threat of annihilation. High Counselor Zinthara mused. This is a concept we have no framework for understanding. Our peace came through cooperation and resource sharing. Theirs comes from fear of mutual extinction. The implications were staggering. Humanity had essentially weaponized fear itself as a tool for maintaining social stability. It was effective, but represented a completely alien approach to civilization. What is their rate of technological advancement? asked Counselor Plexera from the Research Division. Exponential, Veltar replied grimly. In the time since we first detected their radio signals, they've progressed from basic electronics to spacecraft capable of interstellar travel. Our projections suggest they'll have faster-than-light capability within decades. The council chamber erupted in concerned discussion. Faster-than-light travel would put human expansion capabilities on par with Zephyrian technology, but with a species that had developed under completely different evolutionary pressures. Commander, High Counselor Zinthara raised her appendage for silence. What is your assessment of human intentions regarding other species? Veltar hesitated before answering. This was the question that had troubled her most during the journey home. Unknown, High Counselor. They are actively broadcasting signals designed to attract attention from other civilizations. However, their motivations for contact are unclear. Given their evolutionary background and rapid advancement, we cannot assume peaceful intentions. Are they aware of our existence? Asked Counselor Kevron. Not currently. Our stealth protocols prevented detection during observation. However, their sensor technology is advancing rapidly. It's possible they could develop detection capabilities that would compromise our concealment. High Counselor Zinthara gestured to activate the Council's strategic analysis systems. Display comparative development timelines. The chamber's central hologram showed side-by-side progressions of Zephyrian and human technological advancement. The contrast was stark. Where Zephyrian development showed a steady, predictable curve spanning millennia, human progress resembled an exponential explosion compressed into mere centuries. At their current rate of advancement, the analysis system reported, humans will achieve technological parity with Zephyrian civilization within 500 cycles. Extrapolating beyond that point suggests they will surpass our capabilities. The weight of this projection settled heavily on the assembled council. They were potentially looking at a species that would not only match their technology, but exceed it, all while maintaining military capabilities that could threaten entire star systems. What are our options? High Counselor Zinthara asked. Strategic Advisor Cuxinal activated the Council's policy analysis protocols. 3 primary alternatives present themselves. First, immediate contact with humans to establish diplomatic relations. Second, continued observation while maintaining concealment. Third, preemptive action to limit human expansion capabilities. The third option hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The Zephyrians had never engaged in aggressive action against another species. The concept of preemptive warfare was as alien to them as humanity's mutual destruction strategy. Elaborate on the first option, requested Counselor Morseth. Direct contact would allow us to establish communication protocols and attempt to guide human development along more cooperative pathways. However, given their competitive evolutionary background, there's significant risk that contact could accelerate their militarization. The second option, asked High Counselor Zinthara. Continued observation allows us to gather more information while avoiding the risks of direct contact. However, this is a temporary solution. Their advancing sensor technology makes long-term concealment increasingly difficult. The chamber fell silent as everyone processed the implications of the third option. Counselor Kevron was the first to speak. You're suggesting we consider military action against a species that has never threatened us directly. I'm presenting all available strategic options, Cuxinal replied carefully. Human expansion capabilities pose a potential long-term threat to Zephyrian security. Some strategic models suggest that early intervention would be more effective than waiting for them to achieve technological parity. High Counselor Zinthara's compound eyes dimmed with the weight of decision. This council has never authorized aggressive action against another intelligent species. The ethical implications of such a decision would fundamentally alter the nature of our civilization. With respect, High Counselor, Counselor Kevron interjected, our civilization's survival may depend on adapting to new realities. We are no longer alone in the galaxy, and our new neighbors have evolved under conditions that created very different values from our own. The debate continued for hours, covering every aspect of human capabilities and intentions. The scientific data was clear. Humanity represented something unprecedented in their experience. The strategic implications were equally clear. Human expansion would fundamentally alter the balance of power in their region of space. Commander Veltar, High Counselor Zinthara finally addressed her. In your professional opinion, what is the most likely outcome of continued human expansion? Veltar considered her words carefully. High Counselor, everything we've observed suggests that humans are driven by exploration, expansion, and resource acquisition. Their evolutionary background created a species that sees competition as natural and necessary. When they achieve interstellar travel capability, they will expand rapidly and extensively. And their likely response to encountering other intelligent species? Unknown, but potentially hostile. Their first instinct appears to be assessment of threat and opportunity rather than cooperation. They may view other civilizations as competitors for resources or territory. The implications were clear to everyone in the chamber. Humanity would eventually discover other intelligent species, and when they did, their first impulse might be territorial rather than diplomatic. I call for a formal vote, High Counselor Zinthara announced. All in favor of initiating direct contact with humanity. 3 appendages raised. The motion failed to achieve majority support. All in favor of continued observation while maintaining concealment. 5 appendages raised. This option had more support, but still lacked consensus. All in favor of implementing containment protocols to limit human expansion capabilities. 4 appendages raised. No option had achieved majority support. High Counselor Zinthara considered the divided council. We are faced with a decision that will define the future of Zephyrian civilization. I propose a compromise solution. We implement enhanced observation protocols while simultaneously developing contingency plans for all 3 strategic options. Humanity's rapid development means we may not have the luxury of extended deliberation. The compromise achieved unanimous support. The Council authorized the largest intelligence-gathering operation in Zephyrian history, combined with accelerated development of both diplomatic and military response capabilities. As the session concluded, Veltar found herself appointed as director of the new Human Analysis Division. Her mission was simple in description, but overwhelming in scope. Understand humanity well enough to predict their future actions and prepare Zephyrian civilization for whatever came next. The peaceful galaxy that had existed for millennia was ending. What would replace it remained to be seen. 6 months after the Council's decision, Director Veltar stood in the command center of the newly constructed Deep Space Monitoring Station, watching humanity take its first steps beyond their solar system. The massive facility orbited a dead world in neutral space, its sensors focused entirely on tracking human expansion. Confirmed, reported her lead analyst, Dr. Thexera. The human vessel has successfully achieved faster-than-light travel. Travel time from Earth to Proxima Centauri, 72 days. Veltar's compound eyes focused on the tactical display, showing the human ship's trajectory. Their projections had been conservative. Humanity had achieved interstellar capability ahead of even their most aggressive timeline estimates. Ship classification? She asked. Mixed configuration. Part exploration vessel, part colony ship, part military escort. They're not just exploring, Director. They're preparing for permanent expansion. The implications were clear. Humanity hadn't developed faster-than-light travel simply for scientific exploration. They were already planning to establish footholds beyond Earth, spreading their influence across multiple star systems. What's their destination? Veltar inquired. Kepler, 442b. Class 7 environment according to our classification system. High gravity, extreme weather patterns, dangerous atmospheric chemistry. By our standards, it's marginally habitable even with environmental protection. Veltar studied the planetary data with growing amazement. Once again, humanity was defying conventional wisdom about suitable colonization targets. Where Zephyrian settlers required Earth-like conditions for successful colony establishment, humans appear to be deliberately seeking challenging environments. Why would they choose such a difficult target for their first interstellar colony? She wondered aloud. Unknown. Our psychological profiles suggest they may actually prefer challenging environments. The stress of survival appears to stimulate their technological and social development rather than hindering it. This insight troubled Veltar deeply. Zephyrian expansion had always focused on finding the most hospitable worlds available, places where their civilization could flourish with minimal environmental stress. The idea that a species might actively seek difficult conditions challenged their entire approach to galactic development. Director, communication specialist Nixoro interrupted. We're intercepting massive data transmissions between Earth and the colony ship. They're maintaining continuous communication across interstellar distances. Real-time coordination across light years, Veltar mused. Their communications technology is advancing faster than their propulsion systems. The holographic display showed communication patterns spanning multiple human installations. Not only were they maintaining contact with their colony expedition, but they were coordinating activities across their entire solar system simultaneously. They're not just expanding, Dr. Thexera observed. They're creating an integrated network. Each new installation becomes part of a larger coordinated system. Veltar realized she was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Most species expanded gradually, establishing independent colonies that eventually developed their own governance structures. Humanity appeared to be creating a unified interstellar civilization from the beginning. What about their military capabilities during expansion? Enhanced, Dr. Thexera replied grimly. The colony ship carries defensive systems that rival our planetary protection grids. They're not just prepared for environmental challenges. They're prepared for conflict. Conflict with what? They haven't encountered any other species. Unknown. But their military preparations suggest they're planning for the possibility of hostile contact with alien civilizations. The realization hit Veltar like a physical blow. Humanity was expanding into the galaxy with the assumption that they would eventually encounter other intelligent species, and they were preparing for those encounters to be hostile. Their entire expansion strategy was built around the expectation of conflict. Director Nixoro called urgently. We're detecting new launch activities from Earth. Multiple vessels, much larger than the colony ship. The display updated to show massive human constructions leaving Earth's orbital facilities. The scale was staggering. Where their first interstellar vessel had been impressive by early spacefaring standards, these new ships rivaled Zephyrian capital ships in size and apparent capability. How many ships? Veltar asked. 12 confirmed launches, with more under construction. Director, at this rate of expansion, they'll have established footholds in dozens of star systems within decades. Veltar's mind raced through the strategic implications. Humanity wasn't just achieving interstellar travel. They were implementing a massive expansion program that would spread their influence across a significant portion of the galaxy in an incredibly short time. Are they heading for inhabited systems? Unknown. Their destination vectors don't match any known Zephyrian installations, but they appear to be targeting star systems with potentially habitable worlds, including worlds within our sphere of influence. Dr. Thexera checked their territorial databases. Several of their projected destinations are within 3 jumps of Zephyrian colonies. They're not directly entering our space, but they're establishing a presence very close to our borders. The peaceful buffer zone that had surrounded Zephyrian space for millennia was about to disappear. Humanity was creating an expanding sphere of influence that would eventually border their own territory. What's the timeline for potential first contact? Given their rate of expansion and our colonial distribution, direct contact is probable within 10 cycles. Indirect contact through shared resource systems is possible much sooner. Veltar authorized a priority communication to the High Council. The situation was developing faster than anyone had anticipated. Humanity's expansion wasn't just a future concern. It was an immediate strategic reality that required urgent decision-making. Director, Dr. Thexera continued reviewing the data. There's something else. The human expansion pattern doesn't match any known colonization strategy. Explain. Most species expand gradually, establishing secure bases before advancing to new territories. Humans are expanding simultaneously in multiple directions, taking significant risks to maximize their rate of territorial acquisition. Veltar studied the expansion pattern displayed on their strategic map. Human settlements were spreading like a controlled explosion, reaching toward distant star systems while maintaining communication and supply lines across vast distances. They're not just expanding, she realized. They're claiming territory. This isn't exploration, it's a land grab. That appears to be an accurate assessment. Their expansion strategy suggests they expect competition for galactic resources and are moving to establish claims before potential rivals can interfere. The thought sent cold dread through Veltar's system. Humanity's expansion wasn't random or exploratory. It was strategic, military-minded, and designed to establish dominant positions across multiple regions of space. Are they aware of our existence? No definitive evidence of detection, but their expansion vectors suggest they may be aware that intelligent life exists in the galaxy. Some of their movements appear designed to position themselves advantageously relative to unknown potential threats. Veltar realized she was looking at the galaxy's first territorial expansion by a military-minded species. Everything about human expansion suggested they viewed space as a limited resource to be claimed rather than a shared environment to be explored cooperatively. Update the threat assessment, she ordered. Human expansion represents an immediate strategic concern rather than a long-term consideration. As her staff worked to revise their projections, Veltar contemplated the transformation taking place across the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, an intelligent species was expanding with the explicit assumption that they would need to fight for their place among the stars. The peaceful galaxy that Zephyrian civilization had known was ending, not through war or disaster, but through the emergence of a species that viewed conflict as natural and expansion as necessary. Humanity was about to make the galaxy a much more dangerous place, and they didn't even know that other civilizations existed yet. When they did make contact, the encounter would be between two completely different philosophies of galactic civilization. The outcome would determine whether the galaxy's future would be built on cooperation or conquest. The first direct contact occurred on a routine mining operation in the Vega system, where Zephyrian automated extraction platforms had been operating peacefully for decades. Mining supervisor Kelmos was reviewing daily production reports when his sensors detected an unidentified vessel approaching the asteroid belt. Unscheduled traffic in the extraction zone, reported his operations coordinator. Large vessel, unknown configuration, not responding to standard identification protocols. Kelmos activated the communication array, sending standard greeting frequencies toward the approaching ship. The response that came back was unlike anything in Zephyrian databases. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Sarah Chun of a UES Explorer. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions in this system. The words were translated through their linguistic analysis systems, but the tone carried implications that made Kelmos nervous. There was an authority in the communication that suggested the humans considered themselves to have jurisdiction over the system. This is Zephyrian mining platform Delta 7. Kelmos responded carefully. We are conducting authorized resource extraction operations under galactic development protocols. Galactic development protocols? The human voice carried a note of surprise. Are you representing an alien government? The directness of the question startled Kelmos. In Zephyrian communication, such immediate inquiry about political structures was considered aggressive. These humans apparently preferred direct confrontation over diplomatic courtesy. We represent the Zephyrian Empire, he replied. We have maintained operations in this system for 47 cycles. What happened next changed everything. Instead of the careful diplomatic exchange that Zephyrian protocols anticipated, the human ship's response was swift and decisive. 3 additional vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel, surrounding the mining platform in a classic military formation. Supervisor Kelmos, the human captain's voice now carried formal authority. You are in violation of Terra Prime territorial claims. This system was claimed for human expansion under the Solar Colonial Charter. Kelmos felt his breathing apparatus struggle to process the implications. The humans were claiming ownership of a system that Zephyrian civilization had been using for decades, and they were backing that claim with military force. Captain Shun, we have operated in this system under established rights, he responded, trying to maintain diplomatic protocols. Perhaps we can resolve this territorial dispute through negotiation. There's no dispute to resolve, came the immediate reply. This system is now under human jurisdiction. You have 24 hours to cease operations and withdraw your equipment. The communication closed, leaving Kelmos staring at tactical displays showing 4 human vessels maintaining aggressive positions around his platform. For the first time in Zephyrian history, they were facing a direct territorial challenge backed by military force. The emergency protocols activated automatically, sending priority alerts across the Zephyrian communication network. Within hours, Director Veltar was coordinating the crisis response from her monitoring station. Status report, she demanded as soon as the communication link was established. 4 human vessels have surrounded mining platform Delta 7, reported Fleet Coordinator Zorpak. They claim territorial authority over the entire Vega system and have demanded our immediate withdrawal. Veltar studied the tactical display with growing dread. The human vessels showed sophisticated design and obvious military capabilities. More concerning was their apparent willingness to use force to support territorial claims. What's our military response capability in that region? Limited. Our nearest security vessels are 3 days away, and they're designed for planetary defense, not military confrontation. The strategic disadvantage was clear. Humanity had positioned themselves to claim territories through rapid expansion and military assertion, while Zephyrian civilization had never developed capabilities for territorial defense against other intelligent species. Are they willing to negotiate? Veltar asked. Unknown. Their communications have been brief and focused on immediate compliance with their territorial demands. Director Veltar realized she was witnessing the emergence of a completely new form of galactic politics. Humanity wasn't interested in the careful diplomatic processes that Zephyrian civilization used to resolve resource conflicts. They were implementing territorial claims through military assertion and demanding immediate compliance. Contact the High Council, she ordered. First contact protocols are now in effect. The emergency session of the Zephyrian High Council convened within hours, but the situation was developing faster than diplomatic processes could handle. While they debated response options, additional human fleets were emerging throughout the galaxy, claiming territories and enforcing their presence through military positioning. They're not just claiming the Vega system, reported strategic analyst Morkex. Human fleets have appeared in 17 systems, all containing valuable resources or strategic positions. This isn't random expansion, it's coordinated territorial acquisition. High Counselor Zinthara reviewed the intelligence reports with growing concern. Are they demanding our withdrawal from all these systems? Affirmative. In every case, they're asserting prior territorial claims and demanding immediate Zephyrian withdrawal. The scale of human territorial ambitions was staggering. They weren't seeking to share galactic space. They were claiming exclusive rights to significant portions of it. What are our response options? Asked Counselor Kevron. 3 alternatives, replied Military Advisor Cuxinal. Compliance with human territorial demands, military resistance to their claims, or negotiation for shared resource access. What are the implications of compliance? Withdrawal from approximately 30% of our current operations. Significant impact on resource acquisition and colonial development. Military resistance? Unknown outcome. Human military capabilities appear to exceed our defensive systems. Direct conflict could result in significant Zephyrian losses. Negotiation. Uncertain. Human communications suggest they view territorial control as non-negotiable. They may not be interested in sharing arrangements. High Counselor Zinthara considered the options with the weight of civilizational survival. For the first time in their history, Zephyrian civilization was being forced to choose between abandoning their territorial rights or engaging in military conflict. Attempt direct diplomatic contact with human leadership, she decided. Open formal communication channels and request immediate negotiation. The attempt at diplomatic contact revealed the final surprise about human civilization. They didn't have a single government or unified leadership structure. Zephyrian diplomats found themselves trying to negotiate with multiple competing human authorities, each claiming different territorial rights and representing different political entities. They have over 50 distinct political organizations, reported Chief Diplomat Paxera. Some control single-star systems. Others claim authority over entire regions. There's no central authority to negotiate with. How do they coordinate their territorial expansion without unified leadership? Asked High Counselor Zinthara. They don't coordinate. They compete. Different human groups are racing to claim territories before their own competitors can establish claims. The realization struck the Council like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't expanding as a unified civilization. They were expanding as dozens of competing factions, each trying to claim as much territory as possible before the others could stop them. They're not just claiming territory from us, Counselor Kevron observed. They're claiming territory from each other. Confirmed. Human territorial expansion appears to be driven by internal competition rather than external threats. Director Veltar, monitoring the discussion from her station, understood the full implications. Humanity had turned their entire species into a territorial acquisition machine. Every human faction was driving expansion to avoid being left behind by their own competitors. We're not facing a unified alien empire, she realized. We're facing an entire species that views territorial expansion as survival. The galaxy had suddenly become a much more dangerous place. Humanity wasn't just another intelligent species seeking resources and territory. They were a civilization whose entire social structure was built around competitive expansion, and they had achieved the technological capability to claim whatever they wanted. The peaceful galactic environment that Zephyrian civilization had known for millennia was ending. In its place was emerging a new reality where territory belonged to whoever could claim and defend it, where military capability determined political authority, and where the galaxy's future would be shaped by competition rather than cooperation. The age of the Deathworlders had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.